Monday, everybody, and welcome back to the Couchside Judges. I'm Scott Fontana. Follow me on Twitter at Scott_Fontana.
And I'm Dan Urban. Follow me at The Dan Urban. Follow the podcast at Couchside Judges. And subscribe to us wherever you listen.
And if you like this show, give us the 5-star review that we keep asking for.
And as always, we taught judging in MMA. So head on over to abcboxing.com and read the criteria for crying out loud. It's 3.5 pages long.
It really isn't very long, sir.
I read it before we started.
You should read it every time.
Like, it's like...
How dare you only make it seem like this is the important time to do it?
Well, you know why I had to read it again?
Why?
Because I had to get screenshots for everybody on Twitter.
Yeah,
other than that,
that's right.
From what Big John was saying in the fight we had to watch from the other organization.
The fight that I made you watch, indeed.
There's some stuff I want to talk about what he was saying when we get to it.
All right,
so.
all right. Well, you know what? Let's make it easy on you. Let's start on the UFC side for this one because I mean that's where you'd rather be anyway. Honestly, not a whole lot really coming off of this one. I feel like that's like kind of imperative topics, that kind of thing.
I kind of feel that's why the one fight is getting so much attention because there's nothing else really going on.
That happens a lot when you have just not as much going on. Like fans are just looking for something to talk about. I feel like there's some sort of narrative that we kind of need to kind of keep going just to feel like it was worth our time or something. I don't know. I have no idea what it is, but yeah. It's really just like the main event of this one, and then there were a bunch of fights that happened and were either fun or whatever, and then we moved on, right?
Yep.
I think it was mostly a fun event.
Yeah, decent fun.
Yeah, I mean, we had fun. But yeah, it's just as far as impactful stuff coming off of this and, you know, immediate impact of the, let's say, of the relevant immediate impact. I didn't even mean that way, but look at that. Didn't even mean that pun. But it's really just one fight impacting even the greater title picture, I guess, and that would of course be the headlining victory by Jan Blachowicz over Alexander Rakic. It was kind of developing into an interesting fight, I thought.
Yeah, it was just starting to get good.
Just as it started getting pretty interesting because of the way that Blachowicz was jacking up Rakic's left leg. Rakic steps back with his right. You can visibly see parts of the ligaments in his knee rupture.
Yeah, and the production team and commentary had a great time rewinding it and replaying it in slow motion over and over again.
They did. It was like JFK, back and to the left, back and to the left. And yeah, but I mean, honestly, that doesn't does that skeeve you out when you see stuff like that, or do you not care?
Ligaments, no. Bone breaks, yeah. Like the Weidman and Anderson Silva, or Sid jumping off the top turnbuckle.
Yeah, that
stuff kind of gets me, but ligaments not really.
Can I tell you that there's almost nothing that I'm even thrown by anymore, except probably needles. When I watch someone get a needle,
wow,
like on a TV show, even though I know it's totally fake, I'm just like, nah, I can't watch that. I don't watch it.
Did you ever see The Dirt, the Motley Crue biopic?
No.
It's pretty good, but there's some. I watched the other night. There's some.
Is it just a bunch of needles?
There's some needle points,
okay.
Up close. I'm like, oh, well.
Well, you totally sold me then.
Yeah, so don't go watch that if that's your
no, I'll skip it. I mean, I mostly just look away and I can look and check and make sure, but it's honestly, that's the one where I'm like, nah, I don't want to watch it. But if you told me, hey, you're gonna watch Sid break his leg 10 times in a row, I'm like, all right, fine.
What about slasher movies?
I don't like slasher movies.
Neither do I. But say someone's getting stabbed, is it the same thing or?
I don't watch them anymore, so I don't really.
Okay.
It's really hard for me to say.
I got you.
So I couldn't really tell you. I don't like slasher. I think they're stupid movies. I'm sorry if you like them. That's where I come from. If you like them, that's fine. You don't have to care what I think. But
yeah, horror's not my speed.
I like certain types of horror.
Suspense.
Guess I could say. I like
thriller.
Suspense, thriller. I like psychological type of the things that mess with you and that kind of thing.
I kind of feel that's not horror though.
Horror is a broad genre. It really has a lot of things about it. Like I just saw the new Doctor Strange movie with Caitlin the other day, my wife, and it's certainly horror influenced. That is for damn sure. It's directed by Sam Raimi, who did the Evil Dead movies. He also did the Spider-Man movies that were in the early 20 years ago. Those ones, Tobey Maguire. Yeah. But it's definitely horror influenced for sure. That one, and it's not like there's not a slasher going around. It's not like there's a killer, but it's got elements to that kind of thing, you know.
Okay.
So. But nonetheless, it's not my favorite. I'd rather watch like a comedy or an action movie or drama. I watch almost any type of movie really, except if you're telling me like, hey, go watch, I Know What You Did Last Summer or something like that. I'm like, nah, I'm good. No Jason for me.
Yeah, no Jason.
I could care less. No Freddy. You can take them. That's fine. You can have them. They're not for me. No Paranormal Activity. No Ring.
Oh yeah, no, I don't do none of that.
Those. I'm not into them. I don't know why. They've never interested me.
No, because I'm just scared that it's real.
I do like. I will say, one horror movie that I do like, or I'll tell you a couple of horror movies I like. We're off topic, of course. We'll get back to fights and stuff, but I like The Thing. I don't know if you ever watched The Thing.
I've heard of it. I don't think I know.
It is really, really good. It's like 40 years old. Kurt Russell's in it.
Okay.
But it is like some sort of alien entity that is kind of on the loose in Antarctica in like a research facility. And there's a lot of like it kind of deals with like paranoia and that kind of thing. It's very interesting. I really like that one.
Okay.
I'm into that kind of one. The original Alien movie is pretty good.
But I don't know, it was even horror.
It is.
Is it?
It is. It's
I feel it's
going
like
around killing everybody.
More action, I thought.
No. Aliens is an action movie.
Oh, okay.
The original Alien is the one where there's just the alien loose on the ship and it's knocking everybody off.
Okay.
That's very much like that type of horror movie. But I think that one's pretty good. But on the whole, it's just not my favorite genre. So I actually just was watching recently the Bourne trilogy again. The original trilogy, not the ones that they started making after.
I remember the first two. I don't remember the third one.
Third one's very good. You should watch it.
Yeah, I did watch it. I don't remember.
Watch it again.
Though. Yeah, okay.
All right. Do what I say.
Right.
But anyway, let's get back to fights. Of course, yeah. How did we get here? Because of the injury, right? The way it ruptured.
Rakic injury, yeah.
As far as Blachowicz, though, is there any reason? Because this was a good victory for him. It doesn't matter the way it ended, as far as I'm concerned. He was looking pretty good. It wasn't like this happened in the first 2 minutes of the fight and we got nothing out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like they're going to run this fight back anytime soon. Rakic is facing probably a pretty long recovery period from this. But Blachowicz, is there any reason he shouldn't be the next title challenger at 205 after next month?
There's one reason, and it's not anything to do with fighting.
Mm-hmm.
He did mention on the post-fight that he had a cut inside his eye and he needed surgery on it.
That is true.
So I don't know how long that's going to keep him out.
That's true.
If he's back in relatively quick amount of time, it's him. Rakic, he just lost. An unfortunate way to lose.
It is.
Yuri's already fighting for the belt. And Ankalaev and Smith is at the end of July. That's kind of far away. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess they could possibly, if they wanted to, give the winner of that fight. I don't see why you would, unless the timing just didn't line up for when they wanted the next fight to be with Blachowicz. But yeah, I'd rather see Blachowicz. I think most of us would rather see another, especially if it is Blachowicz against Glover Teixeira. I think a lot of us would be interested to watch that one again, even though it was kind of one-sided and it wasn't that interesting a fight. I think we both everyone likes these guys.
Jan threw up a triangle. The man's been grappling. He might make it a little bit better this time.
I have to think that sometimes athletes just don't show up. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily, reflective of a poor athlete. It's just sometimes they just don't have their game that day. I mean, there's games where Michael Jordan didn't show up.
That's true.
It's just the way it is, and unfortunately, because in fighting you only get
show up today.
This. Don't get me started, man. Lay off that. I had small wagers that involved the Suns winning, either at least getting to the finals or winning the championship, that would have paid out much better, and I'm down $20 for it, whatever. But I'm not happy about it, you jerk.
Yeah, that was
a low blow, sir. I feel worse for Shaheen Al-Shati, who's a big Suns fan, and he had to suffer through that game because that was just a pitiful performance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we all like Blachowicz. We all like Glover Teixeira. I think I said this on Twitter that I think that the most fun way to promote that fight, if they were able to do that, is like forget all the typical pre-fight promotions that they do with like, oh, he's training over here and it's getting serious, and oh, this is me with my family and I'm doing it for this and my legacy. I just want to put Glover Teixeira and Jan Blachowicz at a barbecue together with some people, and all they're gonna do is chill and have fun and drink beer and eat burgers and just have a good time. That's what I want to watch. I would watch 2 hours of that.
That would be something new.
I don't care what they're doing, just as long as they're just laughing and having a great time. And at the end, they're like, yes, we'll see who is going to win.
Best of luck, friend.
I don't know whose accent that was. It was just kind of a general, not me. But yeah, that's how I would like to see that. As far as Rakic, though, I mean, do you expect that he can bounce back, after this injury and get back into title contention?
Knee injuries are weird.
I would say in a year. Let's give it at least a year before he's back.
I don't even know. I don't know. Knee injuries are weird. Some guys just never come back.
Sure.
They're just never the same after. I mean, if it heals and he has no issues with it, yeah, then definitely he'll be right back up there. But
I think
who knows?
I think in fighting we've seen a lot of people kind of be able to bounce back from these type of injuries because it's a little different than in a sport like basketball or football or something like that, where you lose some of that athleticism, that like cutting speed, that kind of thing, all that type of stuff. It's a lot different because in fighting there's just a whole lot of ways that you can kind of get around it. I think of Conor McGregor blew out his knee against Max Holloway.
Yeah,
he still won that fight.
Well, here's Dom Cruz, an
Dominic Cruz has lost fight.
An experienced knee injury person was saying, make sure they don't graft it. Make sure they actually take the from the patella, because I think he was alluding to that's what made him re-injure his knee, is they did a graft and not the actual tendon. So I'm not sure, but I would take his word for that on that subject.
I imagine that he'll be able to utilize the UFC PI and then the doctors there. Anyone the UFC can kind of get a hold of. He got hurt during a UFC contest. I mean, everything will be pretty much, I would imagine, I'm pretty sure this is the way it works with the UFC. Like, they don't give you health insurance. These fighters don't get health insurance, but at least if they get hurt, especially in a fight, I'm not familiar with all the details. I don't want to go into it, but I'm pretty sure in a fight, if you get hurt, they're going to cover that stuff.
Yeah,
as well
they should,
and more, but they don't. I have no reason to believe he couldn't get back there. He's one of the younger guys in this division. Eventually, guys like Blachowicz and Teixeira, they're just not going to be here much longer. Teixeira's 43. Yeah. I believe he's 43, and Blachowicz is 39. They can't fight that much longer. They just can't, especially at this level. So guys like that are going to start kind of ducking out, and we're going to have the likes of Rakic and Prohaska, Ankalaev, Jamal Hill. I'm not sure if Paul Craig wants to stick around, but I mean, he's always fun. I can imagine he could actually... the thing about Paul Craig, it's so funny, and people have pointed this out, but Paul Craig has submission victories over both Jamal Hill and Magomed Ankalaev. But most people don't look at Paul Craig as ahead of those two.
That's why we need the MMA man's rankings. That was one of your things. If you beat somebody, you were ahead of them, for the most part.
One of the things you're talking about way back.
Yes.
Yeah. So way back in the day, when I was working for a newspaper in rural New Jersey, we all started blogs. They said, "Hey, anybody wants to start a blog? Start a blog." I said, "Well, I'm going to do an MMA blog." And I opened up the MMA'd Man blog, but everybody would look at it because I did MMA''D man. And I said, "Oh, MMA'd Man." And I'm thinking like made man, like Jersey. And everyone thought it was Madman. And I'm like, damn it. So I definitely messed that one up. But yeah, that was my blog. One thing I actually like about rankings, and I don't know if I did it for... I think I did it for that blog. I did it sometimes.
That's why I looked at it.
Well, I did it sometimes with. I don't even know if you're talking about something else, but I liked to do rankings, not just like 1 through 10, but I liked it better as tiers.
I remember there was more than 10. There was probably like 30 fighters that I recall.
I didn't do 30 deep rankings.
At least 25.
No,
I'm pretty sure.
You're making things up.
No shot. No, because it wasn't just UFC. It was all promotions.
Yeah. I don't think I went that deep though. Maybe 20.
Okay.
At the most. It was probably between like 12 and 20 depending on the division.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think we can move on off of the the 205 outlook, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I really want to get to before we get to contested rounds is the fact that in the fight that we're going to be talking about from the UFC, that's a split decision with Katlyn Chookagian and Amanda Ribas, that went split. Were you surprised that Amanda Ribas was able to kind of keep up with Katlyn Chookagian and potentially win that fight? At least she did win it on one scorecard.
She didn't surprise me at all. She's a good fighter.
Sure.
I knew she was going to show up and try to make it a fight. The way she beat Paige Van Zandt, I mean, I'm not saying Paige Van Zandt is anything special, but that night when she won, I was like, okay, that was a solid performance, and I've been pretty sold on her.
The thing that surprised me, it's not because I don't think much of Amanda Ribas' skill. It's just she's coming up from 115, and I didn't necessarily think of her as a top 5 strawweight, and she's going against who I think it's very easy to see that she is the number 2 flyweight in the world, at least to me, Katlyn Chookagian. She beats everybody else, basically. So for her to have trouble with this one, it surprised me. There's a distinct size advantage. There's a clear skill there. There's comfort in the weight and everything like that. Everything was kind of working against Ribas in this one to me, and totally went the opposite way. It almost entirely went the opposite way. So
I think it was she wasn't deterred. Like, she had a game plan to be aggressive, get in the face of Chookagian, and even though she was getting rained on, it didn't deter, and she kept coming. So,
well, hey, I'm all for fighters moving up in weight instead of cutting too much weight. So if she thinks she can compete there, Ribas, I'd be happy for her to stick there and be more comfortable and not have to cut too much. And I would love to see others follow suit. I think that would be great. It's not going to happen. It's not going to start a revolution, but it's always nice to see. And I hope more do notice that, hey, maybe it's not so bad. Yeah. Alexa Grasso did it. She had bad cuts, though. She had a hard cut. So it was a little bit different.
I think like a fight with Manon Fior would be like the true test to see where she stacks up in this division.
Oh, I don't think Amanda Ribas should be getting somebody who's coming off of another 4-fight win streak here. Give her someone off of a loss. Get a little more comfortable.
No. I'm saying as far as where she will settle in this division against someone like that.
I guess. For me, it makes more sense for Chookagian to go against.
I agree, but I'm saying that type of spot in the division.
All right.
How do you handle someone that's kind of really strong like that? So.
All right, I get you. Yeah, why don't we get into contested rounds now, though, with with this fight. Round 3 in particular was the split round, because in the first round, it was all Ribas on the scorecards. Close round. Round 2 was all Chookagian on the scorecards. Again, I think there was probably some closeness there too. But round 3 is where we actually had the split. So let's discuss that one. Dan, what happens in this fight? It was all 29-28s in this one.
Yeah, Ribas doing what she normally did the whole fight, come forward, throwing wild. I thought she was coming up short a bit, while Chookagian was popping her with her jab and her right hand. Ribas lands a leg kick that off balance Chookagian. A lot of people are citing this as, this is a great strike. I think a lot of people also missed that Chookagian landed a big right at the same time and snapped Ribas' head around. Even the jab at Chookagian snapping her head back, Ribas lands a nice spinning body kick. She did that a couple times throughout this fight. And she lands a good leg kick as the round's going on. And that's really it for a while. I don't see much of Ribas punching landing all that effectively until she starts screaming in the final 40 seconds. And that's where I think the round gets close. And if you think she took it during that, I can't disagree with you. This is the closest round of the fight, in my opinion. When I heard 29-28 Chookagian, I figured, okay, must be round 3 is the one they gave Ribas. Because I had it 30-27 Chookagian.
Okay.
So I did go 10-9 Chookagian this round. I thought she was better overall, a bit more immediately effective. That final 40 seconds, I can understand where people are going for Ribas because of that.
So you have it for Chookagian again?
Yes.
Yeah, I went the other way. I did see her essentially make sure that was her round in the end sequence there, and I very close too. I'm not opposed to it going the other way. I don't think there's any sort of magic in her screams or anything like that. It didn't make it.
No.
It's not like it was that.
It was just psyching herself up.
Oh, sure. But you always have to say okay, let's not get tricked into thinking that type of thing is making her more successful. You know what I mean? It's not. It's just whatever it is, you have to ignore that. You're really just looking at the results of the actions and how it's impacting the other opponent, right? And I did think that she was able to impact Chookagian in this final sequence enough to seal up the round for her very narrowly, because she did have some of that good work, I think, early on. And then, yeah, she kind of it's not as much her later on. Chookagian is able. She is definitely the harder hitting striker in this fight. She just is.
I think it's that's very clear as day that Chookagian strikes are just much more impactful.
She is.
That's a weird argument to say that they're even.
No, I don't quite see it like that.
Right.
I think there are definitely strikes that Ribas is landing, and she's like, okay, I got you, and I think there are times where she is landing more frequently than Chookagian, but ultimately I do think this round, it's enough for Ribas to have gotten it.
Yeah, I think this is the closest round of the fight.
What about rounds 1 and 2? Because you and I were both having some conversations with a couple individuals on Twitter, someone who I work with in Eric Richter, New York Post family, and Billy Ward, who is, I believe he's with the Action Network, right? Yeah, he's with the Action Network. We run his stuff in the Post.
Okay.
So yeah, good conversation, I think, healthy conversation with a couple people who definitely watch the fights and understand that stuff. So, but I think it's worth discussing kind of the first couple rounds, because they seem to be pretty convinced that Amanda Ribas had really done enough to win some of those rounds early on. Now I went back and I watched those 2 rounds. Typically, I don't go crazy with the rounds that the judges all agree on, because once you have 3 guys, all men or women, seeing it the same way, I give the benefit of the doubt, because typically speaking, especially with top individuals who we had in this fight, which were Derek Cleary, Sal D'Amato, Junichiro Kamijo, this is kind of like an A team, right?
Yes.
It's pretty much those 3 and Mike Bell are like the 4 guys that I would say, as far as American and North American individuals who judge fights, that's like the group of 4 that I said you'd pull any of them out of there, and that's who you typically want to see judging a championship fight, for example. So they were clearly, it seems to me, they were put on this fight for a reason, because women's fights, statistically speaking, especially if you get lower in weight, they are more likely to produce split rounds. Difficult to judge because there's less impact coming, I think, is probably what it is, right?
Yeah.
It works the same on the men's side. This isn't gender specific. You go down to featherweight, or bantamweight and flyweight. It's the same type of issue on the men's side. So all the women's divisions just happen to be that low, right?
Yeah.
Is pretty much what it is. So this is a tough one, but I did think that it made some sense that, at least for me, that Chookagian actually could have gotten round 1. Like you said, you saw originally 30-27 for Chookagian. I actually saw a good argument for her in that round too, because as much as Ribas is able to keep the fight down for a while, right? And I think she's down there for, like, I want to say it's 2 minutes 30 seconds, like on the dot, when you look at the UFC stats.
Okay.
That does weigh. Judges are considering, okay, where did most of the action take place in the round? That's where they like to start sometimes. So there is that element to it. But it's just not a whole lot that you're seeing Ribas do while she's down there inside control in these positions, that kind of thing. She's just not really getting enough effectively done down there. And I think that was part of the problem that I had with it that made it much harder for me to definitely go that way. Totally see it. I totally see it. If that's what the judges went for, fine. No problems. But yeah, I mean, when you're talking about when they're on the feet, which is, again, that other half of the round. We're only 230, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other half of that round, Chookagian's landing, and she's landing pretty hard. She's definitely, getting those reactions that we talk about.
Sense of urgency is up there too.
I mean, that doesn't.
She knows she's down, and that's why she's very aggressive, and that's why she's throwing more than she normally does instead of sitting back and countering.
Sure,
and she's landing some solid shots here.
That is what it is, but that doesn't score.
We're
only talking about what
right.
actually scores when we're trying to decide who actually won the round. And I do think ultimately that the strikes she's throwing seem to be landing pretty effectively. But again, I can see why the judges went the other way, all 3 of them. I'm not really challenging that. Round 2, though, I also saw this as pretty kind of solid. Maybe not solidly, but I felt good about this one being a Chookagian round, and it ended up being that way.
Yeah, I definitely thought round 2 was Chookagian. The throw in round 2 is not impactful.
It's not the biggest one. Yeah,
they kind of just roll over.
They do. Yeah, it's not when you're talking about takedowns and how they end up scoring. Right in the scoring criteria, it talks about what is done essentially with a takedown for that. When they're talking about effective grappling, they want it to lead to something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can weigh impact from takedowns, of course, but if they're not landing very hard, if it's not a slam, it's not kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, the fighters feel it, but how immediately impactful is it compared to a strike being landed from Chookagian that we're seeing, on the feet and that kind of thing? I just don't think you can weigh it that heavily. It's kind of like the difference between, maybe some softer punch, or not softer punches, but let's say some punches to the body when you're clinched against the cage. Maybe they're landing a little bit, and you could treat them like something, but it's not the type of thing that's going to end a fight in and of itself, right? As far as impact. A slam definitely could. A higher amplitude takedown, someone where you kind of double leg, lift them off the feet and drive them back into the ground. That's a good takedown, right? That weighs something just by itself. But once you're down there, you really got to do more with that position.
Your goal is are you trying to finish the fight? And I kind of felt Ribas was holding on. I thought she was defending a lot, even though she was in the case of Gatami. She was defending having her back taken a decent amount of that 2.5 minutes that they were down there. And nothing really all that effective came from it after the takedown. I thought this was a Chookagian round in round 1. All 3 judges saw it the same, so maybe I am missing something.
Good chance of it, we are, yeah.
Round 2 was a lesser version of round 1, if I had to describe it. It was kind of the same.
It's crude, but I guess I get what you mean.
And then that's why I think they went Chookagian. So
sure, but at the end of the day, I think what a lot of people and this is not necessarily to disrespect again Eric and Billy, who I thought we had a good conversation with earlier today, is more about just in general something that I would like to see more from kind of people who watch fights, especially people who bet on fights. Right? If you're betting on a fight, you can want a round to be scored one way or another. You can want the criteria to be reflected one way or another. You can want judges to be trying to see it that way or not. But the reality is you have to deal with what they are doing. You kind of have to accept that. And if you're looking to win money off of these fights, your best bet, and that was an unintended pun, is really to understand how judges are going to judge these fights, not the way you would, but the way they would. Because if you can start understanding what they're seeing,
not the way they would, the way they have to.
The way they have to. If you can understand that, you've got an edge over other bettors who really don't. So I would love to see more people who are wagering on fights really dig into that and really start to understand the way it works, because I have to think it helps.
I think it helps.
And look, who doesn't look for literally any edge they can to try and win, right? Especially when there's money on the line. So
it's not a lot to look into.
No. Hey, just listen to our show. We've done interviews in the past with officials. Rob Hines, who's a referee and judge for many years. He was part of the team that put together the scoring criteria changes about 6 years ago. Kevin McDonald. We've had Ben Cartledge on, who judges in Europe. He actually judged at Bellator the other day. And Mark Goddard, who is, of course, he's one of the most veteran referees that we have, one of the most respected referees we have in the sport. And he's the one who basically taught everybody in England how to do things, too. He's one of the most revered over there. So I would say revisit any of those interviews if anyone's ever interested in kind of getting an official's perspective on how these things work.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on. We do have 3 more contested rounds from the UFC, starting with Davey Grant getting the win over Louis Smolka. This was a round 3 knockout punch. A great fight, by the way.
This was good.
Really great fight. It's a shame they didn't get any bonuses out of this one.
Which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, I know. I thought this was probably a better fight than Chookagian Ribas too. No disrespect to that fight. It was a solid fight. But this was a better fight. It just was. And it ended in a really violent, fun way, too. But round 2, before we get that third round finish, is a split round. So, Dan, what happens here?
Rock'em Sock'em Robots for basically 5 minutes. Obviously, Grant has slowed down this round. Everything he's throwing with intent to knock out. It's swinging for the fences every time. I just think Smolka's starting to actually land some big shots of his own. He's using his elbows really well. Decent kicks to the body. I do think Grant is catching a lot of leather this time. He's hitting the arms. He's hitting the gloves. While still landing some good shots. I just don't think he's landing as many as he did.
Mm-hmm.
I think it becomes a Smolka round at the end. Grant throws a head kick, which Smolka uses to catch and get a takedown to side control. Lands some hammer fists there. Jumps on the back in a scramble. Slides off to lock up an armbar. Sweeps Grant over. Bops him with a nice hammer fist before Grant escapes. Then back on the feet to resume Rock'em Sock'em Robots for the final 10 seconds or so. I think that final sequence takes it for Smolka. 10-9.
Yeah, I give it to Smolka too. I think it's a close enough round. I can see maybe what Adelaide Bird, who saw it for Grant, is seeing. I think it's a much stronger argument though for that Chris Lee and Ron McCarthy can make to give this one to Smolka. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I felt good about it too. Not crazy, not a crazy one. And a lot of people get triggered when they see Adelaide Bird being the one who's especially on the out of the scoring. So I don't think this is the one. I don't think anybody was going crazy.
Even
about
when
it
she's not scoring the fight, they throw her picture up there or yell her name.
Well, yeah,
it's like crazy.
But that's the thing. Some people, they just kind of, some of these judges, they get thrown in there, and I don't think we even hear that as much with her anymore. We've kind of moved away from Triple G and Canelo so far that we just don't hear the name as much. For a long time, all we heard about was, oh, Chris Lee's judging this one. Oh, Chris Lee's judging this. This is terrible. People don't really say that anymore. Now it's Sal D'Amato. That's all they're doing with Sal now. And it's like, you guys don't understand that Sal D'Amato is one of the most likely to be in the majority with other judges to see it the same way as other judges of anybody. Like, he's just on more rounds than everybody else by like a wide margin, a large margin, if you will.
Who did Bivol and Canelo? Do you know who the judges were for that?
I
one?
don't.
No, yeah, it doesn't matter.
No,
I was just curious if any crossover or not.
No, I don't believe any officials that I've seen in MMA had done that kind of thing. By the way, I don't think I mentioned with Chookagian Ribas the two that saw it for Chookagian in round 3, same way as you, were Sal D'Amato and Junichiro Kamijo, and I saw it the same way as Derek Cleary.
All right.
So just to go back to that one, but yeah, that was it for as far as rounds that we're talking about who won. The last two that we have from UFC were 8-9 splits. So let's start with Viviane Araújo, who got the win over Andrea Lee, 29-27 twice and a 29-28. In round 2, we have Araújo come out there, and I don't know if she heard what was being said about her in the other corner by Andrea Lee's coach/boyfriend Tony Kelly, but maybe it fired her up if she heard it.
I wonder if it got cut because I still can't find it.
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen audio of it.
I haven't seen it, so I really don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read what happened. I don't know. I didn't get to see what actually was said.
It was, yeah, I mean, it's what you read. I don't like to repeat that. But,
yeah, that's fine.
It doesn't make me, it makes me uncomfortable to say it, but because I don't like it, I don't like hearing it, but it is what it is. It's BS, it's crap. And look, no one's canceling Tony Kelly, for the record. He seems to think he's being canceled because people don't like what he said, and they're voicing that they said it with their freedom of speech rights, just like he would probably cite his freedom of speech to say it. It's the same thing. We can tell you we think it's stupid and it's terrible and it's hurtful and it's damaging. We're not saying you should lose your job for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's me. You don't have to say anything. But as far as that, round 2, though, going to this fight, this is where it's an 8-9 split. What do you see happen?
One-way traffic round. I think the first 30 seconds, maybe a little longer. Lee lands a couple elbows, which are pretty good, but
yeah, she's in it for that long.
Yeah, Araújo landed much better in this sequence, and then Lee takes a terrible shot and gets her back taken, and from there she's just completely overwhelmed in the grappling. Araújo is keeping her on the defensive with her transitions, attacking the arm triangle, looking for good ground and pound for the rest of the round. I think all 3 Ds are checked. That's how you take advantage of in a grappling situation. Doesn't stop once it hits the mat. You got to push for a finish. I think that's what she did. 10-8.
I think so too. I think you can check all those, and realistically, again, we're looking at a round that And I like to call them, it's just a different round, That's not what the criteria would say is the, the basis for deciding what's an 8 and what's a 9. But you like to see when a round that is distinctly different actually is able to achieve that different score. And I think that it does meet the bar for that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I gave it an 8. Sal D'Amato gave it an 8. Junichiro Kamijo gave it an 8. And Derek Cleary only gave it a 9. Cleary was on the outs. He was the out judge on 3 out of 4 of these, actually, from UFC. But he's a strong judge. That's not a reflection of good or bad. That's really just the way it shook out. Note, though, that this team was also on the Chookagian Ribas fight, and this was another women's fight at 125 pounds. Women's fights are hard, and I get the sense that Jeff Mullen, who is the head of the Nevada Commission, former judge himself, probably understands, hey, I should probably put my best guys on judging the women's fights. That's how I read that.
All right.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it's what makes sense to me. It seems like good staffing, good utilization of your resources. And that was it for that one. But we do have one more 10-8-9 split, and that was in Tetsuya Taira's victory over Carlos Candelario.
I hope he got all the cheeseburgers.
I saw that. I love me cheeseburgers as well. Anyway, he wanted In-N-Out. Was that what it was?
He wanted to go to In-N-Out.
Yeah.
And then he heard about the secret menu where you get a triple burger, and he got really excited.
As I actually had a triple burger from In-N-Out when I was out there 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm a glutton. Should have seen everything I was eating at the bowling alley today.
Oh boy!
My kids were at a birthday party for a good friend, and yeah, they just kept bringing out chicken fingers and terrible. Like, when I say terrible, I'm talking about literally the worst pizza I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it was the worst from this particular bowling alley. Some bowling alleys actually have some pretty good pizza. It ain't it. But I just filled up on a bunch of garbage food, and that was fun.
Nice.
But that's me. So, yeah, back to this fight, though. Round 3 is what we're talking about with the 8-9 split here. So what's happening in round 3?
Really starts with not much happening. Candelario gets a takedown, attacks the strong guillotine, because Taira was kind of sitting against the fence. And I think this is a really, really strong guillotine. He sweeps him to mount. He's in there for quite a bit, but Taira able to weather it and escape. Candelario goes for another guillotine, and it not as strong of an attempt, and ends up on the bottom. Nothing much really happening here for a while. And then the final minute is where Tahir takes the back with the arm trap. He's attacking a choke. Then he moves to mount and lands some big elbows and ground and pound in the final 30 seconds. I don't think enough was done to get to the 8. And I also think Candelario earned his 9. But I guess the damage in that final 30 seconds could get you there.
I can see why that, look, Derek Cleary had to have done it because of that end sequence, right? It had to be that put it over the top. And I can see it. I mean, he's definitely in trouble down there, Candelario. But I just don't think that it was quite enough to get over the hump for that particular element, because we're really not seeing a whole lot of that. Although, I don't know. I mean, I would like this to be an 8 is the thing. Like, I'm always torn when we're talking about 8s and stuff right now. It's because, especially in the climate, since again, we always talk about this. Like, it feels like every week I bring this up. Jan Blachowicz and Israel Adesanya from last year, round 5, where the whole lid was blown off at the 8s because Dana didn't like it, and then it kind of reset. It had a let's say a domino effect where the commission started changing the way the 10-8s were essentially hoped to be scored, right?
And the thing is, if it wasn't a champion or a cash cow in that situation, he would never said anything about it.
No, probably not. And realistically, if only one judge had given it an 8, he wouldn't say anything either. It probably would have moved on, but it ended up being 2 judges. This one, I would like to see this as an 8. I just don't think it necessarily matches what we're typically seeing get scored the 8. I don't know. It's tough. And the weird thing is, Cleary had this one as an 8, but he didn't have Araujo as an 8 later on in the evening.
Yeah, this fight happened first.
Yes.
So
So that was kind of curious to me, is why maybe there was a reset after that. Maybe just officials talk to each other throughout the event. They're trying to get on the same page. So it could certainly have been something like that, where he thought, okay, maybe this is, and I don't want to presume what Derek Leary is thinking. I don't know, but maybe that was how it went down. And you could see it. I get it. They're just trying to get on the same page. The 8-9 conversation is, the whole thing has been thrown out of whack again because of what happened last year with that particular round. So I try not to go crazy about judges giving 8s and 9s. I don't think there's a reason to. And again, I would like to see 8s be more common anyway. So anyone who's giving more 8s, like, I'm like, all right, you're my hero. That's fine.
I gave Grant an 8 in round 1 in that fight against Smolka.
Okay.
No one else saw an 8, but I saw an 8.
Yeah. I guess I can understand. But yeah, we both, I think, saw this as a tie or a 10-9 instead of an 8. Same way as Ron McCarthy and Adelaide Byrd. Mm-hmm. And that is it from UFC. But much to your chagrin, as a non-Bellator fan, I made you watch.
Thing is, I could be a fan of them if they cared about their promotion. But they just don't.
I know. But yeah, I made you watch Logan Storley against Michael Venom Page. Split decision, 49-46, 48-47, and then a 48-47 for Page. That one going the other way. This, I didn't make you watch the whole fight, and you should thank me for that, because this was a terrible fight. It really just was a terrible fight.
I did not watch the whole fight.
This was...
I would watch rounds bleed into the following round that I had to watch just for John's score.
Okay.
And his rationale behind it.
Sure, that makes sense. But yeah, let's start with at least the first of these two split rounds that we have in this particular fight, which ended up deciding the interim welterweight champion of Bellator, while Carl Amosov, what is his name? Am I getting that wrong? Carl Amosu is somebody else I'm thinking of. He was a French fighter. But what is Amosov's name? Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. The one who's fighting for his country in Ukraine right now.
I have no idea.
Of course you wouldn't, because you hate Bellator. But anyway, we'll move on. Round 1. What is happening in this round, or not happening?
Well, it's one of the worst rounds of fighting I've ever seen.
Air quotes on that one.
Only slightly better than Namajunas Esparza, round 1.
Yeah, minimally.
MVP lands a solid right hand as Storley's grabbing a leg and tries to take him down the whole time, while MVP lands one good Travis Brown elbow against the cage. And then the rest of the round is just Storley hanging on, trying to keep MVP down, while MVP is landing some pitter-patter. Once in a while, Storley would throw like a 10% effort knee to the legs, or a couple arm punches to the body. Now, this is the part where I was mentioning earlier. Big John mentions you need to look at the whole round, primarily what is happening. So if it's a grappling, and he says it's in the criteria. I didn't see it in any of the 3.5 pages that I read.
I don't see it in the criteria.
He mentions that wherever the round takes place primarily, that's what gets weighed the heaviest. And he's saying grappling was the majority of the round, so that's why the grappling would win the round for Storley. I don't see that anywhere in the criteria. I do believe I remember reading that as an old interpretation years ago. But I don't think that's the case anymore.
I can tell you just from talking with officials, though, this is something that is trained. You know, we might even experience this when we go up to ABC over the summer and go through the training, because that is what I'm told is part of the training there. And it's, you're right. There's no language for it in the criteria. So to see that be a rationale that judges are able to use, it just doesn't make any sense. So I don't like that. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. Codify. If that's what it is, put it in the criteria.
Yeah, say that.
You know, that when we're talking about the recalibration of the 8s and 9s, you can actually justify that within the scoring criteria, because there's always that can consider language when we're talking about just 2Ds, right? If there's no damage, you don't have to give it. So it's really, it kind of offers the leeway to the commission to say, we want those to be 9s if they don't have damage. And you can get away with it. It's legally binding. It's, in the scoring criteria, you can get away with that. But if you don't have that in the criteria, as far as, where it's taking place more often, that's kind of like making it up on the fly. And I'm not getting on the officials who are necessarily trained to do that. If you're trained to do that, I mean, that's what people taught you to do. But it doesn't match with the language, put it in the coding of the criteria, or leave it out and don't do it. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, if that is in fact true, even though it's not in the criteria, then yeah, Storley would win that round. But I got it for Paige 10-9.
Yeah, I do too. I think ultimately what I believe that they wanted to do when they went through, and someone can correct me. If you correct me during the week, I'll happily talk about it next week. But my understanding with the revisions to the criteria was mostly to try and lead it toward rewarding fighters who are trying to finish the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's in there.
Yeah, that is in there. Yeah. And if we're talking solely about that and we're weighing the actions of that round against who was trying to, whose actions were more effective, effective grappling counts. But was what Storley did in that round effective? I mean, he's not really advancing position. He's barely got Paige even down. Paige is pretty much just got his back up against the cage and he's kind of like butt down in part. So I just don't see why that should be a Storley round. I can understand how you get there because realistically, Paige does almost nothing too. I'm not mad about it. I mean, this round, Mike Bell was the judge who saw it for Storley, whereas the other two, Brian Miner and David Leatherby, saw this for Paige. They saw it the same way I did, the same way you did. Mike Bell's a fantastic judge. I said he's in that A group for me. So if he's on a fight, I'm feeling good about it, and I can understand why Judge Bell will go that way. But yeah, I think ultimately you want to see whoever's trying to end that fight, that is the more effective striker or grappler. I don't think there was anything effective about what Storley did.
Yeah, working towards winning the fight.
Working toward winning the fight, ending the fight, not just point fighting.
I think he just was holding on.
It doesn't matter what he intended to do. If he intended to go forward, that's fine, but he didn't do it. So I don't think he succeeded in really what he was attempting to do. And if he was attempting to just hold on, that's not fighting. And it shouldn't be rewarded.
That's what it appeared to be.
It did. So but yeah, so we both landed on Paige. So we've got Paige here up after round one. Round two was a Storley round. We're not looking at that one. All three judges had it that way. I honestly didn't watch that fight very closely except for these two rounds when I went back. And I'm glad for it because it sounds like it was a god-awful fight. So round three is kind of where we're going to pick up here.
Yeah, another awful round of fighting.
Air quotes.
MVP lands the two most effective strikes, actually. Check that. The only effective strikes of the round. Two hard
Truly
elbows.
Effective. Yeah.
Two hard elbows to the head, and then he gets clinched. Storley hangs out there.
They're like these lunging elbows, too. He's like, they're on the feet, of course, and he's like jumping in and landing them.
It looks like he's hitting them solidly.
They do.
And I'm going to start calling these 10% effort knees Storley knees. They're patented now to Storley. 10%. Let me just make it look like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
Some pitter-patter, Kareem hook shot motion-like punches. I don't know. This is a stupid fight.
It really is a stupid fight.
If it's true, you got to weigh what takes place more, which, like we said, that is not in the language. Especially since the grappling was pretty ineffective. I'm going with Paige again, 10-9.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think Judge Leatherby is on his own by here for this one, by the way.
This fight is only interesting in this context. There's nothing else about it that is interesting.
It's only interesting in the conversation, right? Is what you're trying to say?
In talking these two rounds of judging. Other than that,
I would like to see these rounds get under the microscope by the commission, maybe at ABC, whatever. I want, I want someone like Andy Foster over in California when he does his judging little stuff. There was one recently. I had to miss it. Did you go?
It was my sister's birthday. We had to go out to dinner, so I did not get to go.
Yeah, I only found out about it like a few hours before, and I had already had movie plans to see Doctor Strange, like I said, with my wife. So that wasn't happening. It was date night. I was disappointed though. I really did want to go to that, and I missed one in England as well. Would have been nice to go to attend that one because I literally just lost track of the day, and I'm very disappointed in myself. I'm truly disappointed in myself for it because I was excited to participate in one of these, or at least kind of sit in on one. So yeah, I just kind of feel like I'm a lump, I'm a waste, but it is what it is. Yeah, this round, I think both of these rounds really ought to be examined by whoever is on the Rules and Regulations Committee with MMA and kind of say, well, what's going on here? Why are these able to be scored one way when realistically we don't want to reward that kind of thing. I don't think, anyway.
Maybe in July we'll get the answers we're looking for.
I will certainly investigate those things when I'm there. I would love to find that out. But that is it for this fight. We will pretty much never talk about it again, except in, again, this context where we're thinking back to why this happened. But yeah, that's it for the contested rounds. We only had 6 of them. Favorite finishes from the weekend. We had 6 overall from UFC, 4 TKO or KO, 2 subs, and 3 first round finishes. One of those subs was a technical submission. And then Bellator, we had 3 finishes on the main card. 2 were KO. 1 was a submission, and 1 of those KOs was in the first round. Of all of those, sir, and I know you didn't watch the Bellator, but what was your favorite?
Andre Petrosky choking out someone who definitely doesn't look like he, or seems like he belongs to be part of the 209 crew.
Doesn't represent 209 in your mind?
I just don't see
your mind,
it.
yeah.
No, not the way he fights anyway.
Okay.
That Anaconda choke, that was sick.
Nick Maximov, by the way. Yeah. We can give his name.
Fine.
Well, you want to at least warn people about what you think of him.
That's true. But I love the rest of the 209.
Sure.
I mean, they're great. But yeah, Andre Petrosky, Anaconda. What about you?
Michael Johnson. Getting the first knockout victory in 6 years, or in just about 6 years. That last one, by the way, coming against Dustin Poirier. He has the weirdest career.
He really does have the weirdest career. Fantastic.
Yeah, it really was. But yeah, he got the win over Alan Patrick. I would say that the finish by Fabian Edwards of Lyoto Machida also was up there, but I enjoy watching Machida fight. I have for a long time. He was my first favorite fighter. I try to be professional about this, but I'm not going to enjoy watching the man get knocked out. I just won't. You can't find it in me. I mean, let's put it this way: if he was knocked out with like the craziest kick you've ever seen, all right, maybe I'd find some in there. But damn, no, it was a good elbow though. I would say, and look, I know you don't like Bellator. And the Bellator main events lately have been absolutely atrocious. They've been like the least payoff possible that you could ever get out of these fights. Except for I would say at least the fight with Cyborg against Arlene Blencowe was a reasonably entertaining fight, if not, not all that close realistically. But man, they put on some really snoozer fights at the top, which is unfortunate because a lot of the main card is actually very exciting. I enjoyed a lot of this main card. I enjoyed a lot of the past main cards that they've been putting on, but man, they got to put together some action fights at the top of here.
At least try to make me care.
Yeah, I know. That's hard for you though.
They do no advertising. I mean, I don't watch Showtime outside of having to turn this on. I don't watch CBS Sports. They don't play any other sports outside of college football season that I care about. Like, branch out your advertising a little bit.
It would be nice to see more put out there than just the first couple, the couple days before, which is when I tend to see it. Look, I work in media, so I actually get emails from them. So I know when events are coming up. There are things like that put out there. But for people like you, average people out there that are not in media and getting alerts to this kind of thing, it does seem like you kind of have to really watch the fight calendars to really know what's going on.
And this was a mid-afternoon fight, right? Or mid-afternoon
on a Friday, because it was in London.
Right, but you would think you'd want people to know that. Hey, listen, this is happening middle of the day.
What I would really love them to do when they go international like this is don't put it on a Friday afternoon. I mean, you're asking people in California to watch this at 1:00. We talked about this last week, but put these ones on Saturday. Or shoot, I don't know if Sunday is a viable day, but I mean, I think it'd be interesting if they tried it on a Sunday. Who doesn't have a little bit of an afternoon on a Sunday? Say, let's watch some fights. It's not football season,
I guess.
Football season, lost cause, but I think you could get away with it right now. I think that would make a lot of sense. But that is it for past business. Let's look ahead to this Saturday with UFC Vegas 55. Holly Holm against Katlyn Vieira at 135 pounds. Are you interested in this fight, base level?
I think it would be a lot more interesting if Vieira can find a win.
Okay.
For the division.
So you don't want Holly Holm anymore? You're tired of her?
No, I like her. I just think the division would become a lot more interesting with Vieira winning. Because I mean, we've seen Holm at the top enough. So like,
But now we have Holly Holm potentially could earn her way back to a fight for the title against Juliana Pena. That's at least an interesting matchup.
New.
Yeah,
So,
that's new.
I guess.
Katlyn Vieira doesn't necessarily have the most pleasing style of fights. They haven't produced barn burner fights either.
She hit Miesha Tate pretty hard.
Sure, no, she looked good there.
So...
I'm not saying she didn't look good. I think she's a great fighter, especially when she puts it all together. But we just haven't seen kind of like that super excellent performances that we would like to see. Now, Holly Holm doesn't always put it out there either, but we've had some pretty exciting finishes come from Holly Holm fights over the years too, and not just Ronda.
Over the years, though, not too much recently, really.
Well, I mean, let's see. A few years ago, no, probably a little farther along. It was
she hasn't fought in like 18 months, right? She's been hurt.
When is the last time she fought? Yeah, it's been a little bit.
Yeah, October 2020.
I'm supposed to talk to her this week, so I'm going to do my homework on Holly Holm in the lead up to that. But yeah, it's definitely, we haven't seen as much of Holly Holm over recent years, but I think she can still fight.
Yeah,
I think
I got her by decision. So
all right, that's fair. You know what? I've decided I'm not making predictions anymore.
All right,
you can make your predictions, and I ain't making them
I don't
anymore.
even stick to my predictions.
I don't even remember mine.
Like when it comes fight night, I make new ones.
Yeah. Yeah, and at this point, I just spit stuff out because you make me to, and it kind of just comes up. I'm like, I guess I'll say that, and then I don't really think about it anymore. But I'm not really in the prediction game. The judges for this one, because it's Nevada, I imagine it's going to be top level guys, but I mean, no one's over in England anymore, so maybe Mike Bell will be back instead of working over in London. Yeah, imagine it should be good judging. That's what I expect when they go to Vegas. A lot of people don't because they don't understand, but I do. And I expect good judging there. Any other fights you're interested on this one?
Yeah, I got a couple I added to that weren't on there.
Oh, okay.
Did you see them?
Yeah. I'm looking at it now. I have eyes.
Jailton Almeida versus Parker Porter at heavyweight.
Okay.
Almeida's going up to heavyweight. It was supposed to be a 205 fight versus Maxim Grishin. He had to pull out, and Porter stepped in on short notice, so they just made it heavyweight.
That's fine, because Maxim Grishin has had some pretty boring fights over the years.
Almeida's just a freak show of a fighter.
He's fun.
I expect him to show that again and show that he's a major force in that light heavyweight division where he'll be fighting mostly. But...
You got a prediction off of this one that you're not going to stick to?
No, I'm actually going to stick to this one. Almeida sub.
Okay. What about Chase Hooper against Felipe Colares? That one actually interests me.
I think that should be another fun one. I hope there's a lot of grappling, like actual grappling, though, not just holding on for dear life and while the other guy's trying to stand up for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's not a Chase Hooper fight. Yeah. Chase Hooper's looking to sub you.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping to see that.
Mm-hmm. I spoke to Chase last week. He's for my Q&A this week, so keep your eye out for that.
M&Ms?
What's that?
Did he have any M&Ms?
He did not have any M&Ms on him. He has cut his hair, though.
Okay.
There's no curls.
So he is no longer Ben Askren's son.
I don't know if that's the way it works. If you cut your hair, you're no longer related to the people you are.
Does he look like him?
He looks like Chase Hooper with shorter hair.
All right.
I'll give him that. If all we're doing is that his hair is how he is.
I swear, that's the only reason. That's the only resemblance I see.
All right. Well, yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah.
But no, we did solid conversation there. I'm actually very interested. Probably the most interesting fight for me, from an entertainment standpoint, is Michel Pereira and Santiago Ponzinibbio.
I think that should be another nuts fight.
I like it.
So
I like it. Got a pick for that one, or are you just looking for fireworks?
I think Pereira's going to win TKO.
Okay. And then you also put down, and I thought about putting this one too. I just didn't name too many, but Chidi Njokuani going against Duško Todorovic.
Yeah.
You like this one?
Chidi's fun. Just came off a 16-second knockout. Todorovic is always game to just sling some leather. I think it should be a banger, but Chidi's going to TKO him.
You know where Chidi Njokuani fought a good chunk of his career, right?
I know where he fought, yes.
Bellator.
Yeah.
Just naming for people who don't know.
Chidi is a Bellator vet.
And of course, you certainly remember his brother, right? Anthony Njokuani?
Njokuani. I have no idea.
You don't remember him? He was a WEC guy, moved over to UFC.
Name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was a solid fighter too. Lightweight.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is his older brother. Or younger older brother. Bigger brother. Larger size brother.
The bigger brother.
He's a middleweight. But yeah, that about does it, right?
I think that's it.
I'm actually going away next weekend, so I don't know that I'll be able to watch the fights live, but I will make sure to watch whatever we need to for the show because I care about you, dear listener.
Yeah, we'll be back next week, I think, right?
Yeah, we'll do
we're
the show.
Gonna do it. Okay,
no, we'll do the show as normal. I'll just have to. I'll probably watch. I'm going away. Well, my family sticks around. So I'm going for a bachelor party out of state. So on my drive back, I'll be a passenger. And I could probably watch the rounds that I need to.
Yeah. All right. So we'll be good
For sure.
See you on Monday.
Yes, indeed. And I hope everybody has a nice week. Hope you enjoyed the conversation about judging. Maybe you learned a little bit. Maybe we're spreading the right thing. Maybe we're changing the game, but probably not.
I think we're definitely game changers.
I don't know. We'll see.
I think of myself very highly.
You do. You have an inflated opinion of yourself.
Exactly.
Probably way too far.
Yep.
Have a good week, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for listening.